Well, how do there, chums? 'Tis I, Captain of the Steves, and today, chums, for you guys in the Viewerverse, I'm making a video completely on my phone. Yeah, it's just using InShot, so there's not going to be the end credits like there normally is, or any of that sort of shenanigans. It's just going to be me and you just having a quick little chat, people. So, No Man's Sky, as wondrous as it is, 7 years on from creation, what do I feel it lacks? Well, at the moment, I think let's start on some positives. Put the bit that I need in the middle that I think needs to improve, and then we'll end on some positives, like a shite sandwich, as they call it. Yes, good, bad, and good. Yes. Anyway, so starting off with some of the good things and the positive things that Hello Games have done well, and that's deliver on most of the promises that they made at launch. I mean, pretty much, and then some. You know, player models and all sorts that we've got now is just freaking fantastical. I mean, multiplayer is a little bit broken. And when I say a little bit broken, it's very broken, but at least it's still multiplayer in a roundabout way. At least we can see each other's bases, visit the bases as long as they render. You know, so it's kind of good. The multiplayer needs some improvements, but yeah, multiplayer is in, which is fantastimundo. And the fact that they've managed to bring it to so many platforms, which is also brilliant. Yes, it's awesome to see Switch players have made it into the verse, but we can't yet see them because they haven't quite got multiplayer as yet. And also at the moment on Switch, there is quite a lot of game crashes. You see where I'm going with this? For every positive, there seems to be a negative, you know? It's like Origins brought in so much more variety. I love the animations of the beetle-y creatures. They're freaking awesome, aren't they? And to be able to ride them as well and flutter them around planets. Great! Awesome! However, they're probably one of the only creatures in game that are so well animated. And also maybe those dragonfly, butterfly things, they're quite nicely animated too, how they land and take off again. And they're great to ride as well. But it's like the Diplos at the moment we've got. They just sort of do one motion with their heads. They don't do that. They don't move their heads around like they did like in the E3 sort of trailer. They're not organically as alive as inside the E3 trailer. And inside that same trailer, you see a rhino smashing through trees. And then you see all the other wildlife just scatter and run. We don't got that. We don't get that sort of level of gravitas with our creatures on planets. No scripted events, not like that. I mean, the only creature that we've got a scripted event for, really, actually there's two, kind of. So, yeah, the little horrors that you get outside of, like, abandoned buildings when you shoot the eggs and they pop and they come out at you. Or maybe when you're picking stuff under the oceans and that big fish pops out and comes after you. They're kind of scripted creatures, but you don't really see other wildlife acting differently around them. You know, even if you're on a very densely populated fauna planet and you pop one of those eggs, those little creatures come at you. They don't go after the wildlife, and the other wildlife are like, they look a bit dangerous. But they don't run. They don't frickin' scarper. So, yeah, it's just oddities like that. I mean, when there is a predator creature around, the other creatures do start running. They do chase them down and kill the other creatures. So there's a little bit of that, but it's not like they're going to be damaging the actual, the surrounding environment. There's no environmental damage. Even the large sandworms that pop out the ground, all boulders go everywhere, but they don't leave a hole or anything like that. So destruction of environments just don't happen with the creatures, and it'd be nice to see some of that happen. Also, when you come across hazardous flora, the hazardous flora from planet to planet, first of all, when the game just went live, they just had the whipping plants, you know, the ones that are covered up, before they gas comes out the top, them things. They just had those, and then they introduced some of the poisonous cave flora. Then after that, they introduced the other two types, which they've got the pumpy plant, which is quite cool, and the Venus flytrappy type one. But I kind of feel that we need maybe 6 or 7 different types of hazardous flora per biome. You know, like 6 or 7 gamma-related plants, 6 or 7, you know, fungal world-related hazardous floras and things like that, and maybe scale them. So some hazardous flora are going to be far more dangerous than others. You know, plants freaking grow, make them a bit Triffid-like, you know what I'm saying? So I'd like to see a little bit of that come into the game. I want to see a little bit more danger. It's the same with the predatory creatures that we were just touching on a moment ago. I'd love to be able to do combat with one of those giant freaking sandwormy type creatures, and it comes after you or whatever, or even have the types that go across the planet's surface. I know Sean Murray said it won't be cool to be killed by one of them, but just like now when we scan a planet and we know that it's got extreme weather environments or it's got extreme sentinels, it could just say hazardous fauna. You know, and you're like, ooh, hazardous fauna. Have a crack at that, mate. Freaking have it. And then you can make the choice whether you want to go there or not. Only go there when you've got all your S-Class modules and you've got nothing else to do. Which brings me on to end game, people. Because the end game right now, after you've got all your S-Class modules, there is very little that can kill you, apart from maybe a bug or a crash or a glitch or something weird that shouldn't happen that happens. It's very hard to get yourself completely mullered in No Man's Sky when you're completely legacied out, And that's the thing. There's no end game content apart from progressing through all 255 galaxies, or 256 if you want to count that one that you can't reach anymore. Why? Why do that? Why progress all the way through? It doesn't get any more gnarlier. It doesn't get any more crazier, despite what Hello Games and the studio said right before launch, that the closer you get to the centre of the galaxy, the stranger things get. Nope, not true, not true. Yeah, it'd be nice if they did add some of that. It's like if you go the opposite way from the centre of the galaxy and go to the outer rim. In the lore, it says that the Sentinels were pushed back to the outer rims. I know they've introduced a load of new corrupted Sentinels and things like that, but they could introduce even more dangerous Sentinels the further you go from the centre of the core, which would tie into the lore. That kind of rhymed, didn't it? Didn't mean to. I'm just a freaking genius. Dear. Oh, should I edit that out? No, frick it, leave it in. So yeah, there's a lot that Hello Games could do for end game content. It's like having different loot pools, depending on which galaxy you're in. Perhaps the further you go, maybe after you've reached Galaxy 10, a whole new loot table opens up that gives you more gnarlier sort of modules for your multi-tool. And then again, at like Universe 20 or 30 or 40 or wherever you want to put the milestone, just hit it up so it encourages people to travel, and maybe introduce a new ship type, or increase the frequency of exotics, or make it so exotics in different colours land. I would love to have a black, sort of like gunmetal grey exotic. They don't exist. Stick them in like Galaxy 50 or something. Have reasons to go to different galaxies, is what I'm saying, people. It's like even say that majestic Diplo that I was saying about the E3 tray. Add it like in Galaxy 80 or something. Just random stuff in random galaxies that you don't get anywhere else. Or even use mods, like the modding community put out there. Or even shrink the galaxy count, 255. Who's got time for that? Yeah, shrink it down. Make it, 16 galaxies. Tie each to the glyphs. In fact, I've done an ideas video on this, the 16 galaxies idea, where each galaxy has got a glyph associated to it. So if you go to the Diplo galaxy, you're going to find those E3 Diplos and giant fauna that might tear you a new one. Yeah, if you go to the boat one, there's more pirate sort of stations and pirates out there, and it's all lawless, that sort of stuff. Anyway, like I say, I've done an idea video for that. I'll put it in the top right corner over there. Go hit it up. Oh, my top's mirrored. I might mirror it around, so my finger might have pointed in the wrong direction. But you know where to go. Heck yes, you've been doing this long enough. Heck yes. So yeah, I just feel endgame at the moment. There's not much to do there. Once you get yourself leveled up, it stagnates. It really does. Especially with the amount of different planetary biomes that you can visit and the patterns that you're going to notice. And you are going to notice those patterns. I remember inside of one of the GDC conferences, the art direction of No Man's Sky, them saying that they weren't going to have fixed biomes because people noticed patterns. And then they made the choice to go to biomes where people are going to notice those patterns. They already knew the problem before they did it. I don't understand why they did it. And there's nothing from Hello Games to say why they've done that. The idea was they were going to have super biomes that used sliders that worked out the distance from the sun and whether it was likely to have life there or not. And that'd be how the terrain was going to be generated. Has it got a moon? That means it's going to have bigger waves, it's going to have deeper oceans, and all those sorts of other shenanigans. Didn't come to fruition, people. So at the moment, we have about, maybe 50 odd different biome types, with probably about 12 or so different terrain types. And once you've seen those, you've seen them all, even though there are quintillion planets and loads of systems and loads of galaxies and universes. Patterns do emerge, you do see them, and sometimes you know what you're going to see on a planet just by scanning it from space and say, okay, right, I bet you if I land here, there's a good chance that all of the actual fauna here are going to be airborne. And sure enough, they freaking are. And you can kind of guess planetary makeup just by how many planets are in a system, whether it's got rings or not, whether it's got a moon or not, that sort of stuff. And there patterns that aren't believable. And it just doesn't fill you full of awe when you put feet on the ground and jump out of your ship. It hasn't done that for a long time. They've introduced fauna on every single planet to probably make it a little bit more interesting. You don't come across those sort of barren wastelands that used to populate No Man's Sky quite frequently in the past. They're gone. They're gone. They're no longer inside a game. And the whole statement about every fish, bush, rock, tree, cloud, procedural, has never been a true statement. Not really, people. They all seem to be procedurally placed and they seem to be fixed assets. So that they're not actually procedurally generated. There were supposed to be some kind of algorithm that would make one rock different from the other. It would morph the wireframes, and even the trees make them more wavy-davy. And you can actually see evidence of that inside the E3 trailer. You try and spot two trees the same inside that E3 trailer, and you're going to be hard pushed because they've all got different bends to them. They've all got different counts of branches. And they've also got foliage and moss on the trunks that seems to be randomized as well. We don't get that level of detail on our planets. We don't get that level of detail on our flora. We don't get planets that feel as organic and as believable as those people inside the viewerverse. If Hello Games said to me, right, okay, you can turn off multiplayer, turn off the base building, put it as solo exploration mode, and inside the solo exploration mode, you're going to get all that variety. If there was a game mode, a new game mode that just said exploration, and it turned off all the multiplayer, turned off everything else, and it was a solo adventure, and it was more varied, I think I'd hit up that. I'll start a new game save in that mode and just adventure through on my own, solo, exploring and seeing what No Man's Sky has to offer. That'd be freaking awesome if they added that in. That'd be brilliant. If it was closer to the original vision. Heck yes. If they did actually add in the sun, if they added in planetary rotation, if they made it so planets were more believable based on their placement to the sun. I know it's probably almost a separate game, but it's the game that they said that they were making. From all of those sort of trailers, all of that sort of hype that they built up prior to the game's release is why I hit pre-order. And that game still doesn't actually exist. So if they added it as a game mode, that would make me extremely happy. But what else could they add in at the end of No Man's Sky? I mean, they're already sort of hinting at, through this ARG, that the Void or the Realm of Glass might be coming into fruition. If that comes into fruition, that could bring with it a whole host of new sort of loot tables, things to gather, things to do, and they could make it very end game. The only thing with Hello Games is they like to make everything accessible to every player as soon as possible. And I don't know whether it will be end game. It will probably be mid to late game, but or even late to mid game. It's probably still not going to be end game content per se. They might add in a few challenges that might be, but to me, I just feel that I've been on this journey long enough to know that most things are going to appeal and be open to all gamers right from the off. It's like even combating the new corrupted sentinels. You know, you can still have a go without hardly any modules, and you're going to take out maybe the first two waves and then struggle, jump in your ship and fly off. But you're probably not going to come a cropper unless you really, really stick at it, you know? So, yeah, that's kind of where I'm going with this, people. I just feel that there needs to be more end-game content, more variety, more reasons to explore, more reasons to come back to the game in a better end-game loop. I also think for new players coming in that it can feel slightly overwhelming to the point that they start playing for a few hours and then think, how can I cut some corners off of this? Because this is going to take me frickin' forever to get anywhere close to being end game. And there are ways to cut corners. You can just change the game settings, you can change the game modes, you can destroy all the fun to be had. However, what I would say is they need to rebalance things. Make it so when you're doing one mundane task, it's also unlocking a secondary mundane task. It's like when you're digging up all the salvage data to get all the base parts. Why not make it so sometimes you might get a whole loot cache that unlocks a whole tree inside of that, that whole base mechanics looting. And as you dig them out of the ground, maybe you could unlock a word every time you dig one out of the ground. It's not just hitting up knowledge stones. Maybe the loot cache can give you something. Perhaps there's something left behind by previous travellers of yesteryear. And it's the same like when you're hitting up the knowledge stones and you are learning the lingo. Why only learn one word? Maybe they could teach you 5. And then when you go to an actual monolith, perhaps they can learn you 10, as well as 5 Atlas words. I think they just need to speed stuff up, because the word count has grown massively. When No Man's Sky first went live, there was like about 150 words per race. There's now like 4 times that per race. So why not make it so you're earning 4 times the amount of words? So it's got a bit more of a balance. It's like when you're talking to NPCs up in like the stations and trying to learn words. Perhaps they could teach you a whole freaking sentence. Yeah, there's ways and means that they could do in speeding some of the mundane grind up, rather than adding in a game mode toggle, add in more RPG elements, add in a more sense of progression, a more sense of reward. It's like the expeditions. As you're doing the expeditions, you're getting rewards all the time. It feels great. Well, inside the game, we've got milestones. When you pop a milestone, nothing happens. Nothing gets given to you. You don't get like an S-class module. You don't get given some base parts. You don't get given a load of Atlas words. They could easily do that for each of the different milestones. As you hit it up, give you a reward. A little bit like you're doing an expedition inside of game to get that sort of sense of reward as you're going along. And make it so new players can catch up relatively quickly. I'm not talking like mega quick, like just changing the game toggle, but I really wish they would remove that game toggle, that difficulty selection, and only give it to players after they've completed their first loop, after they've done Euclid, however they do it, whether they do a purge or whether they get to the centre. But as soon as they've done that and they arrive, busted up ship, on a new galaxy, that's the time to give it. And give a little tutorial on how to change your game mode and how to fix everything for free. There you go. Now you know it's a simulation. You can control the simulation like Neo in the Matrix. That sort of thing could work really well, rather than just give it to you on the off, because a lot of people are just going to use that to cut corners and catch up as quickly as possible. So that's everything that I feel that Hello Games needs to be looking at, and how they do that is completely up to them. I mean, these are just ideas and things that I've noticed being a long time player for No Man's Sky. But I must tell you now, people, I struggle at times like this. When there's nothing happening inside of No Man's Sky and we're stuck in a lull between updates, it'd be nice if there was something put out there by Hello Games, maybe every couple of weeks, as a community spotlight. Or if they just rotated out the bases inside of the actual Nexus to give us some featured bases to go look out, something to shout about, maybe some patch notes, maybe some developers' feedback to say, hey, we've noticed these bugs, we're currently working on these, XYZ, hopefully this will be in the next update, blah, 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 blah. And a few concept pictures, maybe a few hints and tips, well, hints at what might be coming in the next update from the actual studio. It's like when they were doing the living ship, they put out some weird drawings that almost looked like bug wings and things like that. They were actually parts of the living ship, but we didn't know that at the time, and we were speculating about all sorts of stuff. They could put that in a developer's update. Every time that they know that people are struggling for content in the verse to keep hype going, just put out a dev update, Hello Games. Just put something out to say, yes, we've noticed this in the community, put up some decent Reddit posts that you've seen, some decent bases that you've seen, showcase a couple of YouTube channels, a couple of Twitch streamers, that sort of stuff. Yeah, keep the actual community going, keep it alive. You've got a community manager. You're paying a community manager. Tim, Willie, I'm looking at you. yeah, put some stuff out. Freaking heck. I know silence is now this new sort of go-to for Hello Games, or has been since freaking whatever happened at launch. But come on, evolve with the times a bit. I mean, look at when Cyberpunk came out and how they did their sort of Cyberpunk sort of directed type stuff. Or even how other games developers, like those making Nightingale right now, Inflection Games, and how they keep the community interested with dev updates. Little mini videos. They talk about what's happening inside the studio, what they've heard from the community, how they're shaping that information from the community, the feedback they've had. They don't put it into semantics. They're not saying, well, this is coming next. But they do say, we've spotted this inside the community. Somebody climbing the rocks with pickaxes. So we're now giving players 2 pickaxes at the start, so you can traverse the landscape in that way. A little bit like you guys did, Hello Games, with the, the melee strafe jump. Lovely. Yeah, we've noticed the community of doing this, and we've noticed that they quite like it. So you know what? We're making it an in-game thing in the next update. It doesn't spoil anything. It's a little bit of banter, it's a little bit of fun. It tells us something that's coming in the next update, but it doesn't give away your grand scheme. You've still got all your little secrets there, people. So yeah, I just think communication needs to be a lot better when it comes from Hello Games. And to be honest, that doesn't cost any dev work. And like I say, you're paying your community manager. Get him to manage your community. Heck yes. Anyway, people, I think I've gone off long enough, and I hope you enjoyed this video. Till next time, goodbye, and goodbye again.